I don't know about you guys, but I love gifts.
I love lamp.
I love to give them, I love to receive them, but for me it's less about the actual item and more about the thought and the care that went into picking it out. Which is why I absolutely love the idea of a thrifted gift basket. Now, not everyone is going to be super into the idea of thrifting your gifts, but I think it has the potential to be the most meaningful and most personal gift that you can give. Which is why today I'm going to be putting together a comprehensive guide on how to put together a thrifted gift basket. Now, what are some benefits to doing a thrifted gift basket as opposed to a normal gift basket? Obviously, if you're on a budget, you're gonna get more bang for your buck. But also, it's a lot more sustainable than going to a big box store and buying items brand new. Now, I will be giving you guys some options for things you can add to your basket that aren't thrifted, but we'll cover that later. And of course, you're not giving your money to billionaires, and it's going to charities that actually need your money. If you're shopping at the right thrift stores, that is. Now, before you venture forth and start shopping for your thrift basket, there's a few things that you need to do to prepare. First of all, you need to gather information on your target. So here are a few pieces of information that you're going to want to collect about your person. Obviously, if this isn't going to be a big surprise or a huge secret, you can just ask them these things. But depending on how much of a surprise you want it to be, you might have to resort to some secret spy level of espionage to find out these things. But the first thing you want to find out is their favorite colors. And notice how I said favorite colors and not favorite color. And that's because most people have more than one favorite color, unless you're the green lady of Brooklyn or you are a purple person, and the difference between a purple person and a person who just happens to like purple is their level of commitment to the color. So find out what colors they like, and if you want to get extra detailed, find out their favorite shades of those colors, because someone's favorite color might be blue, but there's a huge difference between liking royal blue, baby blue, teal, liking turquoise, and I've known people who like pink, who love ballerina pink, but who hate fuchsia. So maybe find that out before you start shopping as well. Now, some other pieces of information that will be really useful is, do they have any favorite fandoms, franchises, characters, book series, genres, things like that? Additionally, do they have a specific aesthetic that they lean towards, like cottagecore, whimsigoth, hobbitcore, mid-century modern? That's also extremely helpful. And of course, what is their favorite animal? What is their favorite flower? Those are also super helpful things to know. In addition to what they like, it's also useful to know what they don't like. I'll give you an example. I am well known for liking whimsigoth. So someone could be looking online for inspiration to shop for me and search whimsigoth on Pinterest. But there's a few things that will pop up within that aesthetic that I actually don't like. And that is cherubs or baby angels. So someone shopping for me would need to know that, because if they just think I like all whimsigoth, they might end up buying me a cherub. So knowing not only what they like, but also what they dislike will help you to avoid some missteps. So how are you going to gather this information? Like I said, the easiest way is to just ask. But if you want to preserve the surprise, there's a few tactics you can use. You could scan their social media. So if they have an Instagram, a TikTok, a Facebook, you can kind of go through, see what they're wearing, see what they're liking, what they're saving, to kind of give you an idea of what their vibe is. Now, if they have a Pinterest, congratulations, you might have just struck gold. And if you don't know what Pinterest is, just look it up. But it's basically a place where people can pin images. So a lot of people make style mood boards, decor mood boards, and wish lists. So if they have a Pinterest, definitely stock that and start taking some screenshots. In addition to that, you could also talk to mutual friends, family members, see if they have any information that'll be useful, specifically if they have a favorite color, favorite animal, something that they're obsessed with that they would like to receive. Another word of caution that I'll give you is, if you find out what their favorite animal or what their favorite franchise is, don't just buy anything and everything with that motif. I'll give you another example for me. So I love foxes, and I have for years, and a bunch of people found out in my life, and still to this day, and for the last, I would say, decade, I receive fox items anytime we do any kind of gift exchange or when someone's just thinking of me. The problem is, people tend to just buy stuff because it has a fox on it without any regard for the style, the quality, the colors, or any of those things. So not gonna lie, a lot of the things that I've received over the years, I wasn't a huge fan of. I didn't think were all that cute, but people still insisted upon buying those for me. Not that I don't appreciate it. I appreciate it when people think of me, but I would just give you that piece of advice. Be a little bit more mindful of what you buy them, and when you're putting together your bundle, don't just make it all that one thing, unless they're a collector. But I guarantee if they're a collector, they're also selective about the style and the thing that they collect. So that's why it's good to have a lot of data on this person, because if you know what their favorite styles and aesthetics are, their favorite colors, you're going to be able to factor in multiple things when you're selecting the things for your basket. Another way to gather information is just by being observant. If you've been in their house, their room, if you've seen the things that they wear, you can kind of take a mental note of the things that they like. So you can kind of think of what their style is and try to envision the things you're looking at either in their space or on their body if you're buying clothes. This might be a little bit creepy, but if you have access to their closet, you could also take pictures of the things that they already own, or you could take pictures of their decor, but be subtle about it, don't be creepy. Another thing is, if you have access to their closet, you can also peep what sizes they are and maybe do some measurements. That way you know that if you buy clothes, it's gonna fit them. Now, the previous tip might be a little bit more challenging for those that are stylistically challenged. So if all of this sounds overwhelming, you might wanna designate a shopping buddy to go with you, someone who knows the person that you're shopping for, and you can kind of tag team at work together, and that way you can kind of scrutinize each other's selections and pick out the perfect items. Now, once you've gathered all of your information, you're gonna want to compile it into a list. So you can either use a notebook, your notes app on your phone. I'm more of a visual person and I take screenshots of things and like look things up. So I would also recommend creating a designated album in your photos on your phone, or you can also create a secret Pinterest board. In case you don't know, you can set the privacy of your Pinterest board to only you or private, and you can also invite other people to contribute to said secret board if you're friends on Pinterest. So if you're working with more than one person, you can invite them and work together. Other things to take into account, and these things will make sense later on in the video. Do they have preferred scents that they like, that they gravitate towards, or do they have scents that they hate? Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, are they sensitive to smells? Or do they have sensitive skin? Those are some things that will come in handy when you're looking at things that are scented, or if you're looking to bulk out your basket with non-thrifted items, but we'll cover that later. So the next question is, what stores to go to? So my first piece of advice on that front is, if you are on a budget, I would avoid the big thrift chains because they have a tendency to price gouge lately. Also, they don't need your money and it's not really going to charity like a small percentage is, and they get the stuff for free. They don't need to be charging $35 for a jacket. So even if you can afford to shop at these places, I don't recommend it. I've been shopping at Goodwill less and less, but I'm also not going to judge you if that's all you have access to. That's the only place that you can go. So take that advice with a grain of salt. But if you have access to smaller chains or single individual charity thrift stores, for example, stores that benefit homeless shelters or animal shelters, those are really good places to go. A lot of times those will be cheaper as well because they appreciate the free stuff. They're getting a lot more, and you're gonna find some more unique items there as well. Depending on the time of year you're watching this, you could also try to find garage sales or yard sales. As of the time that I'm making this, it is December and it's frigidly cold, so I highly doubt there's gonna be a lot of garage sales or yard sales, but that's also my climate. So if you're somewhere where it's warmer, those could still be popping off right now, so check that out. And again, if budget isn't your issue and you're just trying to be sustainable, or the person that you're putting this together just really likes vintage and thrifted items, you could also check out antique shops as well as consignment shops. Those are going to be a little bit more curated, although they'll be a little bit more expensive as well, but you're probably going to find more bangers for your thrift bundle if you go there. So now we are getting to the meat and potatoes. What are you going to be looking for to put into your basket? Obviously, a lot of this is going to be dependent on the person that you're putting this together for and the types of things they need, the kinds of things they want, and their style. But there are certain categories that are pretty universal and pretty useful for any person. Try to find things that are multi-purpose and things that they're going to be using on the daily. However, do leave room for more whimsical finds. Now, admittedly, I am currently putting together some thrift baskets for my friends. However, I'm not going to show you the items that I'm picking up for them. First of all, it's incredibly incomplete and I'm very far away from finishing them. Second of all, I want my friends to be able to watch this video and I don't want to spoil anything. Even if I don't mention names, just by seeing the items, they're going to know it's for them. So instead, I put together a faux thrift basket of things that I have thrifted for myself to kind of give you guys an example of the format that you can go for. Now, again, it's going to be largely dependent on the person that you're putting it together for and what their preferences are, but these are just some ideas of the types of items you can go for. Style and aesthetic will vary. Here is what it's looking like. And we'll go over what to put your items in later on in this video, but this is kind of what it's looking like. And I'm gonna go through each item to give you an idea of what you can look for. And the first category that's really thoughtful are frames. Again, the actual style of frame will vary, but if someone were to be putting together a bundle or a thrift basket for me, obviously I'm a whimsigoth girl, so I love a good gold or brass ornate frame. Now, obviously you can either give them a frame without anything in it so they can put something in there themselves, or you can thrift, make, or find a piece of artwork to stick inside one of the frames. A tip that I like to give people, depending on the actual size of the frame, you can sometimes get away with putting postcards in a frame if it's a piece of artwork that you or the person you're thrifting for really likes. So this is actually a greeting or postcard, but with a pre-Raphaelite painting in it. And you can either find these in gift shops, shops that sell stationery, or sometimes you can even thrift them as well. Another thing you can do that's really thoughtful is if you have photos with this person, you can also get them printed and put into the frame. Maybe it's a really beautiful memory that you have together, and that just adds like a personal touch to the thrift basket. Other really creative ways to acquire artwork is sometimes you can find art books, and if it's a book that's already kind of falling apart, or maybe it's an art magazine, I've seen people cut out artwork out of those as well. Some people may not like that because it seems a little bit destructive, but I say if the book is already kind of like the binding is falling apart, it's fair game, it's recycling, otherwise it might have ended up in the trash. The next thing isn't something you can always find in the thrift store, but when you can, it's really nice, and that is a really pretty journal or notebook. This one obviously is whimsigoth themed, and notice how not everything in the bundle is celestial. Notice that as we go along, because if you're doing this wrong, you might end up getting the whole bundle being celestial. Again, unless the person is a collector of celestial items, but I digress. Some thrift stores will have a like school supplies or a crafty section where they might have stuff like this. And I was fortunate enough to find one that didn't have any previous writing in it. However, if you do find something like this that is gently used, it doesn't have a lot of writing. If it's spiral bound, you could always just rip the pages out and just kind of clean it up. But fortunately, I didn't have to do that with this one. Now, if you really want to include a journal in your thrift basket, but you can't find one that's gently used enough, this is where you can get a little bit divergent and go to a normal store and find them a journal to go with everything. You can typically find pretty decently priced journals at places like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Ross, places like that. I've also found art supplies, sketchbooks, things like that. So if they're an artsy person, you can maybe find a couple things to put in your basket from there. But if you're lucky, you might come across a thrifted journal. Another super useful item that a lot of people can use is a trinket dish. I use this one specifically for gathering my bobby pins and my hair ties because they're always like all over the place. So having something like this, like a little central place where they can gather the little trinkets and keep things organized. And it's a really pretty amber-ish glass. I see these all the time at the thrift store. So this is something that's pretty common to find that you can kind of throw into the basket. And kind of on a similar note, another thing you can usually find pretty plentifully is a trinket box. These are super useful too for hiding clutter. Again, putting things like hair ties, bobby pins. I have one in here that I use for my SD cards because my SD card holder isn't big enough for all of the damn SD cards I use. So having cute little aesthetic ways to organize is super useful. Some other trinket boxes that I have this one that looks like a book, and I keep lipsticks in here usually. These ones are super easy to find, usually around Valentine's Day, but I got it not for that. It's this velvet heart-shaped one, and I actually didn't empty it for the video. I keep jewelry in here. I have a lot of jewelry, so I need little trinket boxes to keep myself organized. And then this one also has stuff in it. It has my D&D dice. This one actually, I believe, is a tea tin. So tea tins work, I'm sorry for the noise, really well as little trinket boxes. Now, if you're gonna be thrifting clothes for your thrift basket, I would recommend picking out items that can easily be used together, kind of like put them together like a little outfit. So here are a couple of pieces that I thrifted for myself that I think go well together. So we have a top and we have a skirt. So you could get them a top, a bottom, and then if you want to go the extra mile, you could add a couple of accessories. So you could get them a cute little scarf, or you could add some jewelry along with it, kind of curate them like a little outfit. The next idea that I think is super cute, but also super doable because thrift stores have a plethora of this item, is you can get them a mug. And the cool thing that you can do as well is not just give them a mug, but give them items that can go with the mug. So this is where the non-thrifted items come into play. I think it'd be super cute to put some tea bags, whether it's one specific tea or like a sampling assortment of different teas, into the mug. Now, if they're not a tea person, you could also opt for packets of hot cocoa or instant coffee. Obviously, you can find out these things when you're gathering your information if you're thinking about doing this. I would also recommend making sure they don't have any food allergies or dietary restrictions, like if they're allergic to nuts, dairy, gluten, or don't eat sugar. A cool thing that one of my friends did in one of my gifts when she gave me a mug was she actually gave me these really cute honey stir sticks. Nope, I haven't used them yet, but it is a super cool idea, especially if you are gifting to a tea drinker. The next item you can certainly find at a thrift store, but I would recommend maybe finding it at a non-thrift store like a Ross, a TJ Maxx, or a Marshalls, because a lot of times the ones at the thrift stores are used and beat up, so it might look a little tacky. But you can also add a scented candle. This is where finding out their favorite scents, or if they even like scents, comes into play. Now, this specific one is from Mythology Candles. I don't know if this scent is still available, but this one's my favorite. This is Shakespeare's Stage, and this is from their Renaissance Fair collection. Oh, smells so good. But as an alternative, I also grabbed this candle from Aroma Adventure. My favorite scent is Provision Shop. And the cool thing is all of their candles come in different sizes. This one is a 4 ounce. So it's a nice small little size that fits perfectly well into a basket. Now, if you're gonna give them a candle, I would highly recommend, again, we're doing little pairings, get them some matches to go along with it. This is the only example I had. These aren't cute. They do make like the longer ones that you can add, which I prefer those because these ones burn my fingies. You can also pair it with like a cute little matchbox holder. You can either maybe find a little box to put them in at the thrift store and then add like a match strike piece of paper. They make stickers for those on the bottom. Or you can make one out of clay if you want to add a DIY touch to your bundle. Speaking of, we're kind of going back to the mug thing. A cool thing to add with the mug is actually some cute coasters. However, if you want to add a little bit of a personal touch and do a little DIY, sometimes you can find these blank ceramic coasters so you can then paint them. Now, if you don't want to go the scented candle route, another thing you can do, sometimes you can find them at thrift stores, sometimes you got to get them at like Marshalls or TJ Maxx or Home Goods, but taper candles are super nice, especially if your person really likes vintage and antique aesthetics. And a thing that you can thrift to go along with the taper candles are candlesticks. This is one that I thrifted for myself and it's super cute, but typically, you can find these bad boys, the brass or the gold ones, pretty easily at thrift stores. But if that's something that you think they'll like, that's also a super nice combination that you can go for instead of the scented candle. Even though a lot of these things are super practical and useful, I still wouldn't shy away from getting them a cute little knickknack to go with everything as well. It's nice to sometimes mix the practical with the impractical, and knickknacks are a really great way to implement their special interests or the things that they like into the basket. So for me, I would probably love to get a unicorn because this is one of my favorite fictional animals, so they say. Another thing that you can include in your thrift bundle is books. So maybe find out their favorite genre of book, their favorite book series. And if you don't trust yourself to pick out a good novel, maybe opt for a nonfiction or a coffee table book. Do they like photography? Do they like art? Do they like cooking? Maybe get them a cookbook. A lot of those things are in large supply at thrift stores. And if you pick something out that's curated to their taste, that also adds a really nice touch to your thrift basket. All right, so there's a few more items in this bundle and none of them are thrifted. But if you're wanting to add a little bit of extra things in there, a couple of ideas that you can go for are face masks. And this is where finding out if they have sensitive skin is really useful because some of these are scented and aren't really good for sensitive skin. I don't think this one has a scent if you guys want to look at it. This is a mask that I like. And And another thing that's really nice to add to a gift basket is either a lip balm, a lip scrub, or a lip mask. This is something that I would probably put into a gift basket right now, especially in the winter times when it's super dry. We live in a super dry climate, so I go through this stuff. I go through so much lip balm, lip scrubs, lip masks, so you know everybody on my list is getting a lip balm. And then last but certainly not least, we have scrunchies. Look, I match.
Wow.
I really enjoy silk scrunchies because it does protect your hair and they look cute. So if your person likes scrunchies, if they have long hair, a silk scrunchie would be super thoughtful. Again, this is not something that I would thrift. Maybe check out TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Ross, places like that if you're trying to add little bits and bobs to your basket. I ran out of breath. I'm so sorry. I talk too fast for my own good sometimes. But just like little things to stuff in the side, these are super nice and super useful. So yeah, those are the things that I included in my faux thrift basket. So hopefully that sparks some ideas for you guys. If you need further inspiration for things that you can look for at the thrift store, I will be compiling a bigger list that you can then copy and add to your shopping list. But lastly, we need to talk about what are you gonna put all this crap in? The obvious choice is a wicker basket. And these are super easy to attain at the thrift store. They always have so many. I would recommend getting something that you think that the person that you're giving it to will actually want to reuse rather than something that they're going to end up needing to get rid of. So either something that they'll keep and use or something that they can then reuse for someone else. And this is a very nice shape and size, perfect for like a small to medium sized thrift basket. So something like this would be super useful. Now, if you're wanting to be a little bit more surprised or secretive with what you're giving them, obviously this isn't going to be the right choice. It doesn't close and it's going to be hard to hide everything that's in it. But if you're not worried about that, you could just wrap all this up with cellophane, tie a bow around it, and you're good. However, if you do want to keep it enclosed, there are a few things you can do. Sometimes you can find larger versions of things like this. They sell these typically, again, Home Goods, Ross, TJ Maxx, but you can also sometimes find them at the thrift store. So depending on how many items you're giving them, maybe find something that's several times larger than this. Also, you can sometimes find storage boxes that look like treasure chests. That might be really fun if your friend is whimsical. And then they have those printed kind of like cardboard-y decorative storage boxes. Again, I see those all the time at like Michael's and those other places that I've mentioned a million times, but they often find themselves at the thrift store. So keep an eye out for those. But again, you want to keep your friend's taste in mind when you're picking it out. If all else fails, you can just wrap everything with nice tissue paper and put it in a gift bag or a gift box. It all really depends on your circumstances, the person's taste, and how you're going to be exchanging gifts. So take all of that in mind, but also don't stress yourself out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're putting so much thought and care into this gift basket. So regardless of the overall packaging around it, I think your friend or your family member or your loved one is going to be elated to receive it. And thus concludes my comprehensive guide on how to put together a thrifted gift basket. If there's anything I missed or if you need any clarification, be sure to leave that down in the comments below and we'll chit chat. And if you have any further ideas on what people can include in their gift baskets, also leave that down below. I love it when this community supports each other and gives each other ideas because here we help each other out. We do not gatekeep. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this and if this was helpful, be sure to give this video a like because it really helps out the reach and gets it to people that might need to see this. Also, if you're someone who loves to thrift, if you like whimsical style, this is the place to be. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification because sometimes YouTube doesn't let people know when I upload and it's super annoying. Also, a big thank you and shout out to my patrons and my channel members. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting my content and making this all possible. If you would like to join the ranks of my thrifty chaos crew, the links to join are down below, but it is not necessary to enjoy my content. I just appreciate you being here. And with that, I'll bid you a farewell and I'll wish you all the luck in your thrifting endeavors. Bye-bye.